Thank goodness, people have elections for members. Anyway, so we'll call the meeting to order. We have, today is sort of a housing focus. And we have 5 bills up that should be fine to get through those. And I think most of them are staying with us. And I would like to announce something else. We sent a letter to Commissioner Showalter requesting, and to the Commissioner Harpstead, I think that's where it was sent, requesting more information on various pieces of legislation, various federal grants. And I think we haven't talked about this, but maybe for the Thursday agenda, we can just add that letter on there so the people that are interested in those grants can actually look at that and we can talk about that. There's about 15, a lot of them relate to...
Mr. Chair, you muted yourself.
Oh, that's funny.
No, you're good.
Okay, thanks. Where did that voice come from? That was scary. Anyway, so there's about 15 grants or so. Senator Housley picked out a couple related to the Area Agency on Aging. The ones that I selected had to do with child protection and some disability ones. And my interest is, could these be made with the flexibility that the feds allow or don't allow to maybe work better? We've talked a lot about how we want to improve our child protection and out-of-home placement, and a lot of these go towards sort of things like that. So if you are a recipient of one of those and you really like getting them and you're doing amazing work, just tell us that. We don't have to do anything. And so we have some time to look into those until the end of session if we choose. If there's nothing to see here and they're all perfect, then that'll be that. So just to point out, and we'll have a hearing maybe at some point later about those or along the way. So with that cryptic advice, Senator Newton, welcome to the committee. And Senator Hoffman will move Senate File 382 to be before us. So nice to see you again. Senator Newton, welcome. Yeah, go ahead. It's yours.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Senate File 382 directs the Commissioner of Human Services to close a Minnesota state-operated facility on Ilex Street in Coon Rapids. This facility is a private home in Coon Rapids, actually located about 3 minutes from my house, and it's also about 5 minutes from 5 other group homes in the same neighborhood. Our community cares about those who have mental and physical disabilities, and we have not only always accepted, but in fact welcomed group homes and people with disabilities into our community. We're a caring community, not a NIMBY community. Since June of 2016, the home on Ilex has housed a violent young man who had previously been confined at the St. Peter's State Hospital. While there, he severely beat a female staff member. This incident brought to light the fact that he was a teenager in an adult-only facility. The matter came before District Court Judge Donovan Frank, who ruled that he must be removed from St. Peter and housed at a location where he could be integrated into the community. DHS paid a significant amount of money to remodel a modest home in the neighborhood for this individual and to house a 4-person, 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week staff. There are 4 people in that house with him every day, every minute of the day. Estimated cost of the staff is allegedly $1.2 million a year. This does not include the monthly rent, upkeep, utility vehicle cost of repairs for damages to the house caused by the individual, nor does it include the cost of the city of Coon Rapids for use of its police and fire departments or the EMT and hospital reimbursements. This is a quiet residential area of modest housing with many of the original families living here since the homes were built in the early 1980s. Multiple emergency police, fire, and EMS calls with sirens blaring have made people in the area wonder what's going on. Why all the police calls? Is this a dangerous place to live? Should we, too, move out? Loud profanity hurled at the lady next door. Excuse me. Yeah, frightening escapes from the house by the resident, confrontations with the police, attacks on women at the YMCA, at a convenience store, at Mercy Hospital, and on female staff members all add to this mix. Since 2016, when this situation first came to my attention, I have on many occasions contacted the Department of Human Services, former Commissioner Piper, and the governor's office asking that something be done to rectify the situation. Adjustments by DHS brought only short-term relief. A KMSP TV expose in early 2017 brought to light the $1.2 million annual DHS expenditure to care for one person, the disruption to the neighborhood, and the interference with the desire of long-term residents to live quietly. In my opinion, DHS has not complied with Judge Frank's order to integrate this young man into the community. He needs help, but is a virtual prisoner in a small house with 4 individuals constantly watching his every move. Neighbors have made sincere efforts to integrate or socialize with the young man, but that's been denied by attending staff. I feel that DHS has displayed indifference to our concerns, and that former Commissioner Piper told me and Police Chief Wise that if we forced her to move this individual out of the house, she would replace him with a violent sex offender. It's time, Mr. Chair, for DHS to close this facility and make other arrangements for the individual and others like him who are in a somewhat similar situation. Mr. Chair, I would like at this point to have Police Chief Wise testify, followed by Chief Piper, who lives in the immediate neighborhood. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Senator Newton, and we have discussed this at least 3 years now, and I think a lot of us are equally frustrated. Chief Wise, we were told that things are much better there and all is well. So can you just tell us how well it's going? Chief Wise.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and your fellow senators. No, we continue to get calls for service at that residence. Yes, not quite as often as we used to, but the problems, the severe problems are still present. And I think the times that I've testified in the past, my focus has been on the idea of the existence of this facility in a neighborhood with a person who's suffering from such significant mental health issues is setting my officers up for failure. We talk a lot about policing and people in a mental health crisis, yet somehow Department of Human Services believes it's okay to have this violent person in a house, and that the procedure for dealing with this person when he's experiencing a violent episode is for the staff there to call 911 to have a police officer respond. In the last 13 months, my officers have responded to 3 separate suicide threats that he had made on himself. Again, these are incidents that were called in by the staff because the staff present there was unable, despite their training, to be able to de-escalate the situation. In addition, 3 separate times in the last 13 months, because a transport was required to bring him to the hospital as a result of his suicide threats, we, meaning my officers, responded to 3 different attacks on nursing staff at the hospital. There was one attack on December 18th of 2019 where he punched a nurse in the face. On June 15th of 2000, he had another incident where he punched a nurse in the face. On October 14th, he told a nurse that was helping him that he was planning to rape her and kill her husband and her children after spitting on her.
Chief, you meant 2020, right? Those are last year?
Yep, those
Okay,
are 2020. Yep, so last 13 months, indeed. And the long story short, every one of those required a police officer to intervene in a person who's having a substantial crisis. And all these conversations where we talk about having an alternate path to intervene with somebody other than a person carrying a gun clearly aren't working for this young man. And like I said to you, Mr. Chair, and your colleagues in previous testimony at Senate hearings, is that these the police officers here in Coon Rapids are being set up for this violent confrontation. with no solution in sight. And he merely returns back to that residence where everyone full well knows there's going to be a repeat suicide attempt with a repeat transport required to the hospital, with a repeat assault on staff there. And every one of those incidents are going to require a police officer to be present. So I'm not even talking about the neighborhood, the impact to the neighborhood and the way the neighbors may be feeling about their relative safety in that neighborhood. I'm merely talking about the police interaction with a person who's repeatedly experiencing a crisis, and a disaster is looming. Just like I said years ago, last year, 2 years ago, or whatever it was, I'm saying to you now, a disaster is looming, and I'd really like to prevent that from happening in the first place. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and thanks a lot. And so we'll just, and so Chief Piper, are you there? If you are.
Chair Abeler, can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Yeah, please. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Abeler, for allowing me to speak. I'm going to speak strictly from the neighborhood's perspective. My late wife and I built the first house in this neighborhood back in, I believe it was 1983, and the neighborhood kind of filled out in the next couple of years, and it was really a peaceful neighborhood, a great neighborhood to raise our children in, and I'm glad we made that move up until a few years ago when the whole situation changed, when DHS chose to put a violent person in our neighborhood and disrupt our lives. It just doesn't seem fair. It really seems to me to go into the category, there's some things you just can't make up of why we have this nice neighborhood and it's been severely altered by a DHS's choice. Basically what I've done here to keep it brief is I've talked to the different neighbors, and I want to briefly go over from each one of their perspectives, and you don't have to listen to 5 people talk, but basically, all the neighbors are aware of the situation. They're aware of the Channel 9's report. They're aware of what they witnessed, the person being tackled out on the pavement after he's escaped the house. They see it firsthand. They're aware of it. They're scared. They're concerned. One of the neighbors, one of the times he escaped and was tackled out front, had his 4-year-old granddaughter out front, and his view of his safety and his grandkids' safety coming to visit changed forever.
Chief, and so we had this hearing last year and the year before. Could you, and I don't know what you're prepared to say, but could you talk about recent, how it's going? We were, part of why having you testify today is we were told things are going pretty well. And so we're just, even off the top of your head, it would be helpful, but how are things going from your perspective in the last 6 months, say, since we called attention to this last year and the year before? Is that okay? Could you comment on that?
Yeah, then I'll limit my comments to the one neighbor I happened to get in touch with to just get an update. And the fear, the concern is still the same. I talked with him last night. He lives directly across the street from there, and he informed me as of last evening that the concern is still there. Previously, he did not have an alarm system. He does now. Previously, he didn't have a Ring doorbell. He does now. Previously, he didn't own a gun. He does now. Last summer, you want an update, he gave it up last summer. They were blaring music on the back porch, and the individual in question was pacing around. The wife was concerned that he would escape and come over and hurt her. As far as the neighborhood, as far as the property itself, it's a mess. Once every couple weeks, somebody comes by and cuts whatever grass is there along with the weeds. Last fall, when the leaves came down, neighbors around here keep their yards up. And in this case, the leaves were never picked up. So every time the wind would shift, the neighbors ended up picking up the leaves. So if you're asking Chair Abeler about a recent update, that's it. But I guess I'll leave it at that the fear is still there. We still keep our house locked. We're still concerned about our safety. Nothing's changed.
No, I really appreciate it. And Chief Wise, do you have a comment on the number of calls in the last 6 months compared to the previous year or something, since things are better, we're told?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the numbers are, in 2017, it was 38 calls for service. In 18, it was 29. In 19, it was 24. In 2020, it was 6. But, mind you, this COVID business would have had a significant impact because many of those calls for service we had previously answered were the result of field trips that he had been taken on in the community. Whether to restaurants or to the YMCA or things like that. So the part that I focus on is the violence, and the last assault I told you about on a nurse at Mercy Hospital, the one where he threatened to rape her, kill her husband and her kids, that the date was October 14th of 2020.
That's helpful. And so we're going to hear from the commissioner in a second, but just I'll mention that Legal Aid sent a note that's published, I believe. And they have comments on 3 of the bills, but they have one here, and they are concerned about this bill. And I don't frankly blame them, but I'll just save my opinions for later. Commissioner Harpstead, are you here? I didn't expect to see you, but thanks for stopping in today. Welcome back.
Sure thing. So, Chair Abeler and members, thank you. Minnesotans have made great strides over the past 10 years in moving people with disabilities into integrated settings and communities across the state. With the moratorium on group home settings, we're seeing innovations in home care services, including greater use of PCAs, innovations in host family homes and homes with roommates, individuals living on their own with supports, and people with more intense needs being given the opportunity to live in community settings with more highly trained staff, both in our direct care and treatment services and among private providers. These innovations work to better integrate people with disabilities into our communities while lowering the cost to taxpayers for their support. We had an example at Lutheran Social Service a couple of years ago while I was there, where we moved an individual out of the Anoka Regional Treatment Center into a home of his own in southern Minnesota. At first, we needed to staff that home with 2 people 24/7 at a cost that was the same as Anoka. After he settled into the community and got a job, we were able within a few months to reduce the staffing to 1 person 24/7. I called it twice the life for half the cost. But there's more. Within 6 months, the same individual got married and moved out of that home, ending up with no state-paid services at all. The situation in the home on Ilex Street in Coon Rapids is on the other end of the spectrum. Here's a person with disabilities who was moved out of the Security Hospital in St. Peter, where he never belonged, by order of the court 5 years ago, and still requires 3 to 4 employees around the clock. We have dozens of people with intense needs living in various home settings with various levels of staffing and various levels of success over time in dozens of communities across Minnesota. Actually, if you average the 2 cases I've specifically mentioned on either end of the spectrum, you still get, in the end, twice the life for half the cost. And of course, we may never know when some of us will have a neighbor with high needs who just lives alone or with family without trained staff. At least these licensed settings are staffed 24 hours a day. This fall, I heard a report relayed to me that the individual in the Ilex home has made great progress living in the community. His placement since 2016 has been the longest in his life and has resulted in significant improvements, which subsequently show that dramatic improvements can be available to many less clinically complex individuals currently living in institutional settings, if we have the courage to let them live in community. This past week, I asked for some data and discovered the same exact number of police calls that have been reported here today, not an atypical pattern as people with intense needs settle in. Because we quite publicly closed the Meadow facility in Cambridge some years ago, a facility which needed to close to deinstitutionalize people with disabilities, we have no large facility where people can be committed for a developmental disability. It cannot be legally served in our forensics facility in St. Peter, nor at the Anoka Regional Treatment Center. Our only option would be another home, just like the one this individual is in now, in another neighborhood in another town. A great disruption to his care and his staff, who have reached a point of fairly stable living where he is. And the bill language prohibits reopening of this program, leaving us with no viable options. Given the court order that created this home setting, we're also concerned that the proposal at hand would likely result in litigation for violation of the Olmstead Act, Fair Housing Act, and the Americans with Disability Act, causing a repeat of the expensive litigation that put this home setting together in the first place. We also worry about the precedent with individuals with intense needs now in dozens of homes throughout Minnesota that political pressure be used to force them to move. I would urge the legislature to consider that this is one of the most intense settings we have for people with intense needs in dozens of communities in Minnesota, and not take action to try to close this one at great disruption to the resident and cost to the state of Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just, yeah, so I appreciate your thoughts about that. I think we'll just leave them at that. We have another testifier, Ms. Harrison Hadler, and on behalf of the Ombudsman for Mental Health. Someone needs to mute themselves.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the community. My name is Lisa Harrison Hadler. I am the Deputy Ombudsman for the Office of Ombudsman for Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Roberta Opheim, the State Ombudsman for Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities, had wanted to be here herself to share our concerns regarding Senate File 382. Unfortunately, she's unable to testify as she recently got out of the hospital, a fact she expressly requests I share with you when we spoke this morning. That said, because the proposal within Senate File 382 is so concerning to our office, I am here to stand in for Roberta on behalf of our clients. We believe it is important to remember that as a provider, MSOCS acts as a safety net for clients that private providers cannot or will not serve due to the level of service intensity or complexity of their needs. We are aware of a previous proposal to close this particular MSOCS operated home. We as an agency did not support it then, and respectfully, we cannot support it now. Among our concerns are that this targets a specific individual client, and we have reservation about the needs and supports of any one person being publicly discussed and debated at the legislature. Beyond that, however, we have concerns about the potential violation of this client's rights under state and federal law. The Office of Ombudsman for Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities finds the proposal to close this particular MSOCS facility to unfairly discriminate against the individual living there. This person has the right, under state and federal law, to live in a community of their choosing. Furthermore, while we are aware of the previous challenges associated with meeting the needs of this person, the information that we have received is that there has been tremendous progress over the last couple of years, particularly within the last year. We are also gravely concerned that closing this home and uprooting this person from their chosen community could result in significant destabilization and regression. We are also aware of situations in recent years in which various communities have opposed the development of new settings serving people with disabilities, often in ways that we believe unfairly discriminates against them. But this proposal, however, takes that discrimination one step further and requires someone currently living in a community to move, not by choice, but at the direction of the legislature. We believe that this would violate the rights of this client under the Fair Housing Act, the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Minnesota Human Rights Act, Minnesota's Olmstead Plan, and CMS rules surrounding waivered services, home and community-based settings, and person-centered planning. Moreover, we are particularly concerned about the potential to set a tremendously troubling precedent that could have far-reaching implications, not just for this client, but for the subset of individuals with clinically complex and high behavior support needs served by both MSOCS and private providers in communities across Minnesota. I have often been inspired by the comments, conversations, and ideas shared in this committee. Mr. Chair and committee members, I am so grateful for your leadership, your hard work, and dedication to people with disabilities and the services they rely upon. That said, however, Senate File 382 is not a bill that the Ombudsman's office can support, given our agency's obligation to advocate for clients' rights, ensure they are receiving quality services, meeting their individual needs in integrated and least restricted settings, and person-centered planning. Again, I thank you for the opportunity to be here today to share our agency's perspective despite Roberta's unavailability. I'll do my best to answer any questions should they arise.
Well, thank you. In regards to Roberta, she's just, what a good mentor for you. So yeah. Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, I give my regards to Roberta. I wish she was here. A couple of things come up, Mr. Chair. In our discussion on this, you and I have been and throughout the years in discussions on what is the least restrictive alternative, what is the least restrictive environment, what is the most appropriate setting, what is informed choice. I mean, we can go on and on and on and on, right? And we could get into the weeds on this one. And I believe, Mr. Chair, you had a meeting a couple years ago with some folks at the department, and yeah, this is two or 3 years ago, specifically talking about, and we're not picking on an individual. I mean, if anything, the system failed this individual when he was a little child, and I could go on about that. And it took a federal judge, Mr. Chair, to say it is not appropriate for somebody with a developmental disability. That's what his character came in as, a developmental disability, it wasn't anything else, to be placed in a state institution that was an adult. And then for the Department of Human Services at the time, not now, Mr. Chair, but to say, oh, we're going to exempt ourselves from that. And also, Judge Frank, Dakota County, some other individuals were having conversations about what would be the most appropriate placement. And your conversation three years ago with a bunch of folks was talking about the specific things that you are addressing here. And the failure to address what you were bringing up still is evident today. Is this the most appropriate placement for an individual? Is this an informed choice decision? For Bud and the folks at Legal Aid to talk about, proposing an appropriate alternative home and service options, that's what you and I have been talking about for 3 or 4 years. And it saddens me right here to see that we are still having this debate to this day. If we look at the unique and individualized needs of this individual and his disability and how it affects his life within the community, then we have failed him as a system. And that goes way back to when he was a little baby, when the system failed him. Foster care, out, another foster care, was adopted, back to the foster care system. Oh, and then let's put him in an adult detention center where he was a juvenile. No, we have a right to bring this up, and I think your continued conversation about least restrictive alternatives, informed choices, is a valid point. This is not discrimination toward an individual. So with what you're hearing from the testifiers here saying that, I absolutely disagree with that, and I want to know why we are still having that conversation. And I guess not to pose more of a question out there, but we really need to look at the specific interests of this individual, and having a mini institution in a community doesn't cut the test.
Thank you. Senator Utke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and testifiers that have come forward. Like it's been mentioned before, this is the third year we've heard this, if not more, that we've sit here and listened to the police chief ask for help and others ask for help, and 3 years later, nothing has happened, and we still have the issues out there. And so I would like to, I listened to what the commissioner had to say and others, and I would like to have somebody bring forward a plan. How are we going to help this individual? It was mentioned about violating this individual's rights. We care about that, but we also care about the rights of all of those that are being threatened and the reasons for all these police calls. And in the end, something bad's going to happen, and then we'll hear a whole different story. So I think it's time. I like what's being proposed, but it's time that a good, solid plan comes forward and it's enacted on, because after 3 years of hearing the same story, sooner rather than later, we're going to hear something we don't want to hear. So I would just like to hear something come forward that helps this guy out and helps the neighbors, keeps everybody safe.
Thanks, Senator Utke. And with that in mind, the next bill is something like that. Senator Newton, do you want to have closing comments and move on to the next similar topic?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I appreciate it. I really appreciate what Senator Hoffman had to say. He's sort of our resident expert in care. Just a couple of things. Commissioner Harpstead went on about integrated settings. This isn't an integrated setting. He hasn't been integrated into the community. The attempts have been made. Young people across the street, roughly the same age as this person, had offered to bring pizza over and sit down and share a pizza with him. His staff refused that. Any integration they have has been away from the community, not as a part of the community. So that is really a false presentation. And then, for Ms. Harrington to say that we're targeting the client, we're not. We're targeting the issue. This is not in compliance with Judge Frank's order. His order was to have this person removed from St. Peter, which was done, and integrated into the community. He's not integrated. And Mr. Chair, I agree wholeheartedly with Senator Utke and what he said about what we really need to do is to look at not just this individual, but all individuals in similar cases, regardless of the degree of severity of their mental health, to make sure that we've got facilities available for them to be integrated into a real community, to have a chance at life, not have 4 people sitting around them every minute of every day. So with that, Mr. Chair, I thank you. I thank you for bringing it up. I thank you for your years of support on this.
Thank you, Senator Newton and all. And so with that, Senate File 382 is laid over. Senator Utke, you were prescient. Senator Hoffman moved Senate File 615 to be ahead of us, and there's a fiscal note of $18,000. Senator Newton to Senate File 615.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I was still looking at the list, and so I thought it was Senator Utke was coming. You know, this 18 below weather is, every 4 hours I was getting up to start my vehicles because they're outside, right? And so, and they're old, and anyway, evident there. But the bill in front of you, Senators and Mr. Chair, is really looking at saying that we have to look at a plan that helps ameliorate the effects of repeated incidents, and since this is one of them. I know it was Representative Stevenson in the other body that has the same language going forward. But as we start looking at these programs, what's missing is there a plan in place in order to help ameliorate some of the actions that are occurring in some of these places? So the bill in front of you, Mr. Chair, addresses that simple thing.
Well, thanks, Senator Hoffman. And so, and I just have to say, Ms. Harrison Hadler, I loved your speech. It was a perfect speech. It's a speech that should be given on all kinds of occasions, and Senator Hoffman and I would sign on to that speech in almost every circumstance. What you see today are a handful of senators not knowing what else to do. We have the highest regard for this individual. We've not mentioned his name or even his initials. There's got to be other ones like this, and there'll be more in the future. And so there could not have been a better neighborhood chosen in Minnesota than this neighborhood, where if there are individuals wanting to help a person with challenges, come against those challenges and succeed in the neighborhood, this is the neighborhood that would have worked at. And Chief Wise does not go around any other of Coon Rapids' services for disabilities, saying, oh, this is a problem. The city loves to embrace people who need to live in Coon Rapids and have them be their friend. But this has been an abject failure of a setting. And so, Ms. Harrison Hadler, don't quit talking. Don't quit saying everything you have to say. But in the same token, help us know how to really serve this individual. So you can't do this, and I got it. And I think this language on this draft, which we put together, isn't even a very good draft. We had a study, the department looked at it a few years ago, and they did, it wasn't a very good study, frankly. And so, in legal aid, I respect your concern that this isn't a very well-drafted piece of legislation. But so, the question really is, if you have an individual with extremely high needs, and you're spending $1.2 million on them, to actually do a mediocre job of meeting those needs, is that the best we can do? And so I've asked over and over and over, is there not a better way to have something? There's got to be the top 10 individuals like this living in one places, I think it's in the range of 10 or something, that are individually housed, and I don't know how they're integrated. This might be the most challenging individual, but we have a duty to serve all the individuals. And so with that, members, I'm looking for better language on this to create some kind of work from the department. I'll be happy to work with Commissioner Harpstead, and every word she said I agree with. But to Commissioner and Roberta, hello out there, and your department, who I have so much regard for, and legal aid, like, I'm on your side most of the time. So how do we help good things to happen? And so that's all I have. Any other comments from members? Okay. Well, with that, we'll lay over Senate File 615, and I want to thank you for your attention to this. We have to serve everybody, all 1 however many millions of people that we need to have. Senator Utke, you could just stay there, or you could move, whatever you like.
He wants to be number 2.
Oh, he wants to be the live guy. All right. Well, thank you for your attention to this. And maybe the people that are watching this committee, how do you handle the hardest situations? How do people in a bipartisan way, working with the administration, address things that are really hard to come up with? And that's what I'm done with that. Senator Utke moves Senate File 319 to be before us. And if the testifiers could be as pointed and reasonably brief as possible, I would appreciate that. So Senator Utke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Remember to turn it on mic. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would move Senate File 319, and I would like to follow that up with, I would like to move the A1 amendment.
So let's get that done first. Senator Utke, could you just briefly say what the bill is and then describe your amendment, and then we'll vote on the amendment.
Okay. The bill, the bill is, we're going to talk about housing supports program, making a couple adjustments to that. But jumping forward to the amendment, it's just a clarifying amendment. When we look at, there's 2 different lines that are affected. One is just correcting the reference, and the other is with the, is clarifying the amount or what the $100 increase is for, and it's for room and board. So it's just two quick things, basically a technical, but it's clarifying amendment is a better way to put it.
So I'm looking for hands on any questions from members. I don't see any hands, and no one said I missed a hand. Everybody understand the amendment? So come online and unmute. And so all those in favor of the A1, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The amendment, the motion prevails. The amendment's adopted. Senator Utke, to your bill.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, Senate File 319 includes needed updates to our state's housing support program to promote stronger pathways to housing stability for individuals experiencing or at risk of homelessness across Minnesota. Housing support is a statewide program that helps cover basic housing costs like rent, food, bed and linens, and laundry for seniors and adults with disabilities who have low incomes. This is a bill that helps individuals obtain stable housing in a community setting, focusing on the places where individuals have their own lease. It represents a unique public-private partnership with the ability to work directly with the private market landlords. And there's 2 parts to the bill. One, it's increasing base rate funding to better meet current costs and make it more feasible for more landlords to participate, and changing the statute to allow for extended absences in specific situations so that residents can seek needed health care treatment without fear of losing their housing. These updates build on temporary changes made earlier in the pandemic response and would benefit residents at risk of homelessness as well as landlords as we move forward together to address our state's housing. And Mr. Chair, with that, we've got some testifiers lined up that would like to give us further details on this bill.
Well, thank you, and just allow me to apologize. People say I should wear my glasses. I actually was wearing my glasses, and I saw the long list, but then I saw the phrase written testimony. So there's only 3 testifiers, so you have ample time to say what you were going to say. Anyway, I apologize for that. Anyway, so we have written testimony from Association of Minnesota Counties, the Metropolitan Interfaith Council on Affordable Housing, Olmsted County, MICA, Project for Pride, and I Catholic Charities. So those are, I think, useful. They generally are supporting the idea, and they have some other related ideas. I would urge people to read the written testimonies. Everybody can't get here. We can't accommodate everybody like we would like, but I would like the public to know when they submit written testimony that somebody actually looks at it, so please look at that. With that, Ms. Couts from Clay County, welcome to the committee.
Hi, thank you. Hello, thank you, Chair Abeler and members of the committee. My name is Gina Couts, and I'm the Supportive Housing Supportive Service Manager at Clay County HRA. I run the Housing Supports Scattered Site Program in our area, and I'm here to support Senate File 319. The Housing Supports Program in Clay County is a three-way partnership between Clay County Social Services, who administers the benefits, Clay County Housing and Redevelopment, who holds the contract with Clay County and handles the room and board responsibilities, and 11 different supplemental service providers in our community. These supplemental service providers include other homeless providers, CAP agencies, mental health, and substance use providers. There are currently over 150 participants scattered throughout the county, and they all are in their own apartments with their own leases with private landlords. One of the reasons why this program is successful in Clay County is that the housing is available in the price range housing supports can maintain. However, rent and utility costs are increasing constantly every year. Utility costs in Clay County are insanely high. The costs associated with providing housing-related supplies is also very expensive, and the program and administration is very burdensome. One of the burdensome aspects of the program is that the participant can only be away from their unit for up to 18 days without losing their housing supports benefits. This policy often discourages a person seeking inpatient mental or substance use treatment. Also, there has been many times when, after an illness or an injury, participants need a higher level of care or rehab than they can get in their own independent homes. In both cases, the person may lose their housing while they're seeking the services they need to keep to stay healthy and housed. A good example of this was actually just a couple months ago, November of 2020. One of our participants fell on the ice and ended up needing intensive medical care and rehab. He was in the hospital for 2 weeks and unable to live independently for a month after his hospital discharge. Thankfully, at that time, COVID-19 waivers were in place so that it allowed him to be away from his unit so that he was able to focus on his rehab and not worry about where he would be discharged from. A couple other examples with this program. Sean has been homeless for over 15 years. While homeless, he struggled with feelings of being worthless, lonely, helpless. He moved into an apartment with housing supports, and we were able to provide the necessary items so he could eat, sleep, and bathe comfortably in his new home. He said this was the most welcome he had ever felt. And he's been able to work on his mental health and actually has been employed on and off throughout the year that he's been in his apartment. In January, something happened and he lost his apartment. However, during this terrible time, he states he never gave up like he had in the past. In fact, he used my new favorite phrase. He has actively practiced hope. He continues to work with his supplemental servicer provider, and together they were able to find another apartment. Tony has been homeless started his homeless journey at the age of 43, the day he walked out of jail after doing 1 year for his first and only felony. He lost everything. He wanted to start a new life, but had a difficult time finding a job and was staying at shelters on and off. Depression and anxiety set in, and he started drinking heavily. That became his way of life for the next 10 years. He states that his pride got in the way of asking ever for any help. Then one day he actually did ask for help. He was able to move into Gateway Gardens using housing supports. It was difficult at the beginning because he was not used to living in a home environment. He's been outside for most of the last 10 years. But with the help of his housing supports case manager, food support, hygiene, and cleaning supplies, he's been able to feel like a different person. He still struggles with his alcohol from time to time, but he's made a lot of progress. He is currently looking for full-time work, and that would allow him to pay for his way again and take care of his responsibilities. He now has a fresh start on life. Thank you for hearing my testimony. I hope that the information I provide highlights why this bill is so important. If you have any questions about our housing supports program, I would be happy to answer. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Couts. And if nothing else, this reminds us that our 1.1 million people that we serve are one person at a time. And they're unique and And, you know, I think you're the only county person here today, but I just have to really commend our counties for the way that they know their individuals and they really seek out to serve them in the best way they possibly can. So thank you very much for that. Next we have Kendall Benson. Welcome.
Hello, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Kendall Benson, and I'm the program manager with Catholic Charities Scattered Site Housing Support Program. Our program works with eligible housing support recipients to find and maintain affordable, stable housing with private market landlords. All 200 clients that my team currently supports have a disabling condition and experience long-term homelessness. However, with the assistance of our program using housing support dollars, all have stable housing. Monthly housing support payments help these tenants cover basic housing costs, so rent to landlords and utilities first, but also necessities like transportation, bed and linens, and cleaning supplies. Housing support has changed the lives of our clients in their journey of obtaining and maintaining housing stability, but it is getting harder and harder for our program to meet these needs. Housing support has not kept up with the cost of rent and the additional supports required and truly expected of our program. Often we are looking at rents that are beyond the housing support base rate, not including utilities. This leaves our program with limited to no financial resources to provide clients with the other necessities. Additionally, we are spending nearly as much time relocating existing clients to more affordable housing units as we are helping new clients move into housing. Limits placed by housing support on resident absences is also problematic. Currently, a person cannot be gone more than 18 days at a time without losing their benefit. For individuals with chronic illness, mental illness, and substance use concerns, it means they have to choose between entering a treatment program and giving up their apartment key or not tending to their health needs. Our clients are being forced to choose between their health or their housing, but what we do know is that housing is healthcare. Housing support is a unique private-public partnership that has worked to prevent homelessness and move people into stable housing, but the current rate is not sufficient anymore. The extra $100 a month provided by Senate File 319 would make it easier for more landlords to say yes when my team calls to ask about a potential unit for a client. It would mean more tenants could stay in their current units and have a little extra to help cover these basic costs that so many of us take for granted, giving my team more time to help new clients by reducing the amount of moves we do throughout the year. The change to the absence policy offered by the bill also means a person could get the healthcare treatment they need and be able to return home after completing treatment instead of returning to homelessness. These are common sense updates that will support the longevity of housing support programs. These changes will allow programs to be able to meet the program expectations, create more opportunity for program landlord partnerships, and support housing stability for more Minnesotans. Please support Senate File 319 and the housing support program. Thank you so much for your time today.
And thank you, Ms. Benson, and I appreciate hearing what you're saying, and I think you're iconic of the nonprofit sector where you touch so many people and try to weave it all together. I have a question for you. I think then Senator Lori carried the language for some housing support for some increase in housing supports. Do you remember that? Are you familiar with that at all? Or we gave it a little raise a couple years ago. Has that made a significant difference, or I'm just totally catching you off, so if you don't know the answer, you don't have to, but do you know offhand?
I do not know directly. I know we receive like some increases yearly for like some cost of living changes. However, it is not as significant enough for the cost of rents that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, super. And that was, it's unfair for a chairman to do that to a testifier. So maybe we'll listen to Ms. Gerber, and then maybe that's my question for somebody that's on the call here. So Ms. Gerber, welcome to the committee.
Thank you for having me. So Gina at Housing reached out and asked if I would, say a few things, being that we're on the other end of it. And so I'm Tammy with ASA Property Management. We're based out of Fargo. We have buildings in both states. Currently in South Moorhead and Dilworth, we have about 205 units. Few different owners. We have one owner that is more lenient on, if there's some discrepancies in the background. So we use that owner, quite a few times. We do have some scattered housing people in our other owners' apartments that's more strict. So part of our process is we treat them just like any other tenant because to us they are just another tenant. So we do a credit check, we do the past and present landlord reference when we're able to get those, and we do the background checks. We used to have a 5-year on misdemeanors, 10-year on felony. We are able to use our discretion on a case by case in the city of Minnesota and North Dakota. Has that come back to bite us once in a while? Yes. But for the most part, everything's been going really good. And so with the one owner where we have a little more discretion, their rents are a little bit lower, but the tenants also have to pay their own heat and electricity, which comes, back to the housing part of it because that has to be figured into what the rent is. And once they get approved, then we will do a apartment inspection with housing that is required by the state of Minnesota to make sure, they've got the running water, there's no holes, everything, it's just like any other apartment building. And we do always pass. To me, it doesn't matter, if they're coming from a housing program or if it's somebody who makes $100,000 off the street, the apartment should be suitable for any same person. It doesn't matter what their background is. And so I would say our experience of it, 98% of the people that we've had great success. We've had a couple bad apples, yes. And when we do have issues, whether they're big or small, first thing I do, I get a hold of Gina, and then whoever the other support person is, whether it's through Summit Guidance, Lakes and Prairie, all the different ones, we have contacts in their files. And we keep it a 3-way conversation. So we're trying to help them get through whatever the problems might be. Gina with housing is very good at following through with them and all the other, places. And so they have a lot of support that way. And, we try to, make life livable for them if they're having any little issues. The part about them, asking, for them to be there if they're gone more than 18 days, I never knew that part of it. But I can definitely see the point. The majority of people who do come and rent through us through this program, they, everybody deserves a second chance. And the majority of them, they're ready for that second chance and they want to make this their home. I've seen a few different, tenants who I think if they could have gone and gotten help and not worried about losing their housing, they would have done that. Whereas they keep the apartment and you can just see them struggling. We have a couple of them still there. One of them has moved out in the past, and I'm not even sure if that one was on this specific support group or not. But I think if they knew that, if they start having problems or if they start doing that one step back, that they can go get the help and they would still have their home when they get back to it. We've seen these tenants, they definitely integrate with other tenants. And to our other tenants, they're all the same. They're just tenants. Nobody knows backgrounds of anybody. Nobody knows if they come to us from them being homeless. It's confidentiality, of course. And so if anybody knows anything, it's a tenant telling another tenant. But we really haven't seen that. And we've seen a lot of our tenants that are on this program actually making friends with tenants in the building. They even hang out once in a while, and stuff like that. So it's definitely a positive program. We will continue to work with it. It's getting more difficult with the COVID stuff. We are looking at the backgrounds a little harder because we have found once we, let people in, and it's not just on the program, it's just regular tenants, we start having issues. We can't do anything as far as, having them out and move elsewhere because of the COVID. But for this program, I think it's a great program and we will continue to support it as long as we've got vacant apartments for the tenants. So.
Well, thank you very much. And it's been quite a time to be a landlord, so I appreciate your work. And just something I just noticed in your testimony, a lot of the advocates are really happy that there's no evictions. But now if you have a past that is, needs a little bit of accommodating, that accommodation may not be happening. And so it may actually have dried up some housing options by not having the eviction thing there. So anyway, it's just interesting. Senator Utke, to your bill, and then we'll do questions whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all of our testifiers here this afternoon. It's an important piece, just like they had talked about, for the people that are affected. Those that, without a change in the number of days, could lose their housing if they're needing treatment for more than 18 days. That's an important piece so that, as it was stated, they can come back to their home. And then the other was increasing the amount of money so that as costs go up, they're able to keep up with that and basically maintain what they've got. So that's what we're trying to do, and I thank you for
Thanks.
letting us bring this forward.
It's actually kind of fun to look over and see two live people at this side of the committee room. So, yeah, actually you can do eye contact. And there we go. People raising hands.
Wonderful.
Questions from members? I have a couple questions, but if you wanted to have your question, now is a good time. Alrighty. Senator Utke, I don't think that the amendment changed this on page 2. And I think, money is going to be a little tight here. On line 2.5, it says if the rent is payable beyond an 18-day calendar day absence, so beyond it could be the whole year. And in the same way, line 2.6 exceeds 60 days in a calendar year is also not a limited number. Do you have any idea what that really means? And I know we'll have to get a fiscal note on this. And so would you please comment about that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I don't have a specific answer for you because that is kind of open-ended, and it's something that we want to close the loop on because, number one, it would be hard to put a cost on it, a fiscal note, when we say it could be forever. And we will bring that in to we're going to have to put a number in there because we know that we're wanting to extend the 18 days, but then when it says may exceed 60 days in a calendar year, well, that could mean 365 too. So I know you don't want to move forward with something that's that loosely written, so we will tighten it up.
So I have a question for Mr. Albrecht, if you're able to say hello. Are you there? Hey, Mr. Albrecht, greetings. Are we allowed, let's just say that we make up the number 30 calendar day absence and talk about 90 days in a year, but don't have a hearing. I just made up numbers, but so let's say we change them. When you request a fiscal note, is this something you'd say we want to use 30 and 90, or do we have to have a bill that's before us that we've acted upon to request a fiscal note that would be different than what this would be?
Mr. Chair and members, to request a fiscal note, all you need is the language that you want the fiscal note to apply to.
Okay.
I would defer to Mr. Monahan or Mr. Oswald on the procedure for making sure that the fiscal note matches what the committee has done.
All right. Well, I don't need anything more than that. So Senator Utke, as you sit with the advocates and come up with a pair of numbers, I would suggest you come up with some number. And Mr. Albrecht, I bet you would presume also that it could be a pretty big fiscal note if it just had no upper limit. So anyway, Senator Housley, there you are. Hello. You want to weigh into this fiscal note question?
Well, no. Just to the
Senator.
bill itself. Which type of providers will be receiving these rate increases?
So who knows that? Ms. Couts, maybe? Or is there someone from the department?
I do know this if you'd like me to answer.
Please.
Okay. So the housing supports dollars are actually spread or put into two different pots. One is for the room and board rate, the other is for the supplemental services. Sometimes the people who get the money for both of those pots is the same organization. Sometimes they're separate. So like, for example, in our organization, the room and board rate would go to the HRA to make sure that the room and board is taken care of for that client. Other organizations, it goes into both. The way that the dollars are split between it, though, is that rate $1, which is the room and board rate, can only be used for room and board people, or of the people who are in that program. So they cannot be used throughout the organization except for a 5% admin fee.
Senator Housley.
That's good, thank you.
Thanks. And then, Ms. Couts, while you're there, do you know the answer to my question? Didn't we raise this? I thought Senator Lori in 2017 or sometime around then, maybe it was a different time. We changed some housing pricing. Do you know that? Can you just refresh my memory?
I can. It was in 2016. Now I'm going off my memory. I believe that the room and board rate was $893. Today it is $934. So it has only gone up $41 since 2016.
Okay. When was that increase made, do you know?
We did get a small increase from 922 to 934 in July of 2020. There was a pretty decent increase to the supplemental service rate, which is a different part of what we're talking about than today.
Oh, that's what I'm remembering. Was that 2017 or?
I want to say 2016, yes.
Yeah, okay, well, have a good memory, it's just short. Okay, any other questions about this bill from anybody? With that, we'll lay it over and Senator Utke and his colleagues will figure out what numbers to fill in the blank there with. Good testimony. Senator Hoffman, do you want to take Senate File 721? So I'll move that. So Senator Hoffman moves Senate File 721, and this will be laid over.
This will be laid over as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. And Lorianne, I almost said Serafolian. That's her. Sorry, Lorianne. I'm going to call you that forever. Lorianne Granados is here with us today, too, to kind of talk about back in 2019, you had established this grant program, and then during special session, it was to include CADI within the elderly waiver, and this is now the grant program that was established in 2019, talking about its successes and its challenges and how it wants to continue moving forward, Mr. Chair. So with that, Lorianne Granados.
Welcome, Ms. Granados. Yeah, the floor is yours. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Lorianne Sarafolian Granados. I know that's a mouthful. I am the Director of Human Resources for Accessible Space Incorporated, ASI. ASI is a Minnesota-based nonprofit that was founded in 1978 to provide independent living options for adults with serious physical disabilities. Today, we provide customized living services in apartment settings for more than 100 adults with significant disabilities in Minnesota. We provide extensive 24-hour physical care and medication management, and that access to care allows our residents to live in a community in an apartment with dignity and self-determination at a fraction of the cost of nursing home placement. The problem? We only serve low-income residents. Therefore, 98% of our service residents are Medicaid recipients on waivers. Our residents' care is funded primarily through the CADI waiver, but also the brain injury waiver. And this disproportionate percentage of waiver clients creates a really substantial hardship for our organization. Since we don't have any private pay or insurance clients, there is no other group of clients to shift those unreimbursed costs to. And as you know, the waiver rates are quite low compared to the cost of care. The rates are not proportional to the rates paid for developmental disability services, which require less physical care and medication management. But more importantly, the waiver rates don't reflect the level of care or the degree of staffing needed for the clients we serve. The rates paid compared to the costs incurred in 2019 resulted in a $450,000 deficit in this fund for ASI in 2019, and that was after a $320,000 deficit in 2018. Because the waiver rates have not been increased for more than 7 years, we are paying 2021's expenses with 2013's budget. The cost of staffing has increased very significantly since the last time waiver rates were increased. And that has made it very difficult for us to continue services that are so necessary to our residents. Actually, the only way we do continue to provide customized living in Minnesota is to subsidize this fund with revenue from other services in other states. Due to this insufficiency, ASI has already closed 3 service sites in Minnesota, in Rochester, Minneapolis, and St. Cloud, thus further limiting the service options for Minnesotans with disabilities. Absent ASI services, our residents would reside for years, for the rest of their lives, in a nursing home at a much higher cost and a significantly diminished quality of life. ASI services prevent nursing home admission, and that benefits the individuals we serve, their families, and the Minnesota taxpayers. We have so many vital, involved, active residents who have very complex needs requiring 24-hour care. They simply could not live and thrive in another setting. But customized living has allowed them to live in their own apartment with access to 24-hour care they need, with freedom, independence, and dignity. We have a resident in Duluth who has quadriplegia and who's on a vent, who manages his life well, who lives in his own apartment, attends university classes, and regularly watches Minnesota Gopher and Minnesota Wild games in his apartment with his girlfriend. I cannot imagine him living the rest of his life in a nursing home. Last year, with the help and support of Senators Abeler and Hoffman, the previous elderly waiver grant program was changed to the Customized Living Quality Improvement Grant. That new program has been expanded to include brain injury and CADI waivers to provide more access to the grants for providers who serve disproportionate populations in these areas. CADI and brain injury providers will be able to access funds from this grant program for the first time this year, which is why it is so vital to fund this program adequately. Senate File 721 appropriates $2 million over the next 2 years to make sure that providers like ASI can continue to provide alternate, high quality of life options for residents within our customized living communities. This will make such a significant impact in the lives of the residents we serve by filling that funding gap that will allow us to hire, train, and retain the staff that are so critical to serving our residents and realizing our mission of providing affordable, accessible housing with care. Thank you so much, Senator Abeler and Senator Hoffman, for working together with us to resolve this problem so that we can continue to provide services in Minnesota. Members of the committee, today we're asking for your support in this endeavor as well. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thanks. The questions from members? Senator Hoffman, do you want to? I've got a question, but go ahead, you can do your thing.
Mr. Chair, I'm fine. Thank you.
Anyway, so just a technical note. I was really excited about how this could be from when this was a Senate proposal and it actually became a law. And there's some really good stories about some of the grants and the good they did in the elderly waiver world. And this was my effort. I tried all kinds of ways to help elderly waiver populations of where they had a high percentage of elderly waiver clients compared to 2, which I know of one, but which, anyway, that's a different discussion. Trying to help keep these places open, and sometimes 50 or 75,000 is enough increment to keep something at least interesting and innovative. And so, you know, Mr. Monahan, just if this, I really want to try to do this, and I would like it to be in the base as an ongoing. It was $500,000, so it'd be $1 million instead. That's my intention with whatever's written down here. And I know I talked to the department, Mr. Pollack in particular, and they were doing all they could to help. We're all together in this COVID time, you know, and northern Minnesota has some real challenges. And so the more we can cut down more trees and make the application form longer, it's going to help all of us. Because you need staff to fill them out, you need trees, you need pulp, you need all these industries. So it's, maybe I'm kidding, but it was a 37-page application, and I was told that that's to help the assisted livings these ones that are challenged to be prepared for the licensure, so there's some reason for that. But as simple as it could be made would be a really good thing. So this is, you know, if we had more time, we would hear some stories about what people have done with this money, and it's just really remarkable with what some of the wellness programs one place was talking about. Maybe, Ms. Granados, do you know, you don't know of, you're just hoping to help keep your places open. I do have another, let's just forget that line of questioning. But anyway, so it's remarkable sometimes what small dollars can do when they're able to be flexible and do something that doesn't go into operations, it doesn't go into the just general staffing, but it's something special. And then they sit around, they talk about it, and they come up with really cool things. But Ms. Granados, you mentioned, so you do customized living, is that your thing? And so there's a proposal in the governor's budget which mirrors a proposal I had. So this is, there's no disparaging of this. I like it. I think there was some abuse in the customized sector, which I became aware of. And so either now, are you familiar with that proposal? Again, I'm asking a question you may not know, so.
I am familiar that it's in the governor's budget.
Okay, well, here's what I'd like from the customized providers who are legit. Would you please look at that and make sure it doesn't cause you any harm? Because there seems to be a loophole in the customized world that you can charge like a ridiculous amount of money, more money you ever could imagine per day. For, go ahead.
We have never found that loophole.
No, yeah, rats. And if you found it, Ms. Granados, your company would not take it because that would be wrong. And so many of the, I mean, just the bulk of all our providers try really hard. And every so often there's some little outlier program that seems to be popular. Just, you know, we're not doing that. So if you found that little loophole, settle things in, you know, get the Florida house and go to there and serve people in Florida. But we need people like accessible spaces and like that serving us here. So, but I would like some feedback from any of the customized providers to make sure we do no harm in that, and in terms of the sizes that we've listed and so on. Any other questions from members on this? Senator Hoffman, do you want to close?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members.
That was it?
That's it.
Wow, okay. That's it. How about it's a good bill? There.
It's a great bill, and I think that, you know, what we started 2 years ago, Mr. Chair, you asked, so now I get to...
That's it, time's up.
Okay, thank you.
With that, Senate File 721 is laid over. And now, Senator Hoffman, you got a blank check on the rest of the time for Senate File 383.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and also we're going to do, there are two amendments, but we're just going to do the one. I believe the A2 is the current amendment for 383.
So, Senator Hoffman, do you want to describe the bill and then just basically what the amendment does?
Yeah, Becky, a couple years ago, Senator Dietzich, you and I were listening to some parents talk about what integrated housing gaps there are and what could be done about that. And that was, it was pretty enlightening, and we came away from that meeting and then you started chatting about how your theme on integrated housing, and as we're driving toward what does it mean to be truly inclusive to our community and within our community and having access, some things came to mind. And with that, you know, you had talked to an architect, I can't even say it, but Chris Gibbs had these wonderful ideas that he was talking to you about. And Seamus O'Meara, who is here with us, he is the dad of Connor O'Meara, somebody who's experiencing that same dilemma that of all those parents that you and I and Senator Dietzich were meeting with, we're talking about. And out of that comes up with this integrated community-based housing pilot project, which was something that you wanted to see, which really looks at, you know, supporting housing that provides that integrated approach. And, you know, when you talk about innovation, Senator Abeler, this gets us in that conversation. So with that, the amendment is to put the design design and puts it under the Commission of Human Services instead of housing. We had it in housing, but it needs to be under DHS. So that's it with you.
So Senator Hoffman moves to A2. Any questions about the A2? Seeing none, unmute and video yourself. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion prevails. The amendment's adopted. Senator Hoffman, to your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. And as I said at the very beginning, this really came out of the discussion where, you know, look, the provisions of Olmstead from 1999 and what we know with the Mito case talks about people with individuals with disabilities having a right to be in the community. And what does that mean? We all provide supports within our own environment, right? We have inclusive families, inclusive supports. We belong to an association, or we belong to that group, or we do what we do in order to function. This idea of this integrated community-based housing piece falls in that. And to kind of talk about where the families were going in that conversation, you were part of Senator Abeler, is Seamus O'Meara, who's here with us today, the dad of Connor, who was a sponsor of one of your first hearings you had, if I remember right. Did you do Connor's Corner?
Connor's Corner, yeah. So, and greetings to Connor. I hope you're watching out there. And we had the privilege to do the show. There's a radio show that's on kind of random days of the week, I think, and I'm not sure if it's a regular time, but he's just an amazing host. He was funny, and Senator Hoffman, you were even funny, as I recall.
Mr. Chair, he was absolutely, you cannot stump him on any sports analogous something, and then, of course, you know, he goes right to ask the great questions. And yeah, I think it's every Friday, I think they're Friday mornings on Monday mornings on the local radio station in the Frogtown area.
And welcome to the committee, Mr. O'Meara. You, to some, you need no introduction, but you're just extremely versed on so many matters of housing and some of the issues that face this community, actually firsthand as well as second and third hand. So thank you for being here, and welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chair Abeler, Senator Hoffman, senators, members of the committee. I'm here in support of Senate File 383. I think I have the number right, to support grant funding for the planning and design and construction of permanent supportive housing within integrated community settings for people with disabilities and elderly individuals who want to remain in their communities. So why am I here? I think really from a fundamental perspective, there's a critical need for dynamic initiatives that will connect and support people with disabilities within their local communities in the areas of independent living, employment, health and wellness, and true life opportunities. Many individuals with developmental disabilities.
Mr. O'Meara, can you get a little closer to your mic?
Sure.
Thanks.
Many individuals with developmental disabilities remain in their parents' home or in the homes of siblings or relatives far into their adult lives. This is due in large part to the absence of integrated supportive housing and programs that can help support them as citizens within our communities. I personally know hundreds of families that have the same issue that we face. How do you get connected within your local community in a safe way with good, safe housing, with programs that support you in your community so that you're not simply isolated in some apartment somewhere, in town. So this modest funding would, I believe, go a long way to help plan and design and lead to the ultimate construction of innovative ideas that can connect not only housing, but programs and existing infrastructure and people within the community so that my son and others that are experiencing, challenges in their lives can choose if they want to live in a broader community in a safe way and be connected. These integrated community-based projects can feature residential living with employment opportunities developed both on site where the housing might be built and within established places within the local communities. Supported business connections combined with educational resources and programs can provide person-centered life skills and experiences to facilitate independent living. These projects can include health and wellness components, indoor, outdoor rec areas, along with other features and amenities. The scale of these projects, it can run the gamut from, a small 10-acre site to a much larger site, depending on identified needs, budget, resources, and community partners. And, we've talked to a number of people in many states. There are potential developers and strategic partners across the country interested in supported housing with connected resources for vulnerable populations. I'm talking about commercial real estate developers who are repurposing malls, transition programs in schools such as the Minnesota Autism Center that serve these citizens, local planning and economic development departments, the ARC of Minnesota, the YMCA, the Minnesota State College System, Apple, and many, many others that we have discussed on a private private-public partnership basis. And so as a father of a 23-year-old with autism and an advocate for people with developmental disabilities, I think that this is a wonderful idea, and I hope that it could be supported.
Thank you, Mr. O'Meara. Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. O'Meara. And, Mr. Chair, this gets into that whole thing about flexibility, right? I talked about that early on, lifelike, the creation of the private-public partnerships. There was an article in the Pioneer Press, I think last year, where architect Gibbs talked about this, concept and developing of it. Then since then, the families that we talked to have gone out and they've made these interconnections, and this is an integrated setting, which is I really like. And so when you talk about that, we have to think beyond. And I know Bud and Maren had sent a letter to you having questions about those pieces. Trust the fact that when you're looking at what is this integrated, we're thinking outside the complete box on what integration is. It's not going to be some little group home that's stuck in the middle of a town, right? This is really talking about involving the full community, right? It's the Latin phrase veritas communitas. There you go, Mr. Chair. But the other one is the funding sources. It's a private-public mix, and opening up a different doorway on how we do business is going to perhaps get some flexibility. We're already having those conversations now, and this is just one step further. And the other one is when you look at, we're pushing the needle on what's integrated community-based setting. Yeah, HCBS, a home and community-based services piece. It's not about fitting into what the system says, but rather is the system fitting into what the unique needs are of the individuals with developmental disabilities and how we're approaching that. So all of those things are going to be a mixture of conversations that are there. And thank you, Seamus, for pointing out about that public-private partnership and about addressing the unique needs of people. So, Mr. Chair.
Senator Hoffman, I think I'm going to make a plaque out of that, fitting the system to fit the people, not fitting the people to fit the system. And we have been discussing a lot on this committee. It's actually so fun to have live people in a room, I just can't tell you. And have real conversations. Yeah, Senator Utke was the first, yes, and he's going to let us remind us about that. But so as we look at all the proposals on the table this year, everything we're doing, families first, trying to how do we help rescue families and keep them out of the system, and how do we keep the racial disparities from just overloading one or two particular groups? How do we make the system work to fit the people with a waiver reimagined? Maybe there's a benefit to some of that, but how is that going to make it work better for the people, or is it just better for the system? Correct. And so that's what's on my mind, and so about this housing matter earlier with that person in Coon Rapids. So the system's working great, but does it fit the guy, and does it fit the community? And in all these matters, this housing thing we're talking about, if it's in a place that it's in the whole wrong neighborhood to be there, well, then it's not a good idea. But so we've been to a couple housing meetings last year. We said, we're going to get something done. And so this is something I really hope we can find the $1 million to do, because the $1 million is going to bring in 9. And I'm persuaded, Mr. O'Meara, and to the committee, I think that they could make it run on the housing supports that are there already, and then the waiver services can come in and maybe batch individuals who need something. They could share some services. But this is not just going to be a housing place for like 100 people with a disability. It's going to be, if it's 100, like this, so we talked about this. So let's pretend that the old Sears building is our site. Apparently that's tied up. But that would be like an amazing place. It's got bus lines. You're right near downtown. It's a pretty safe neighborhood, and you can get there. And so maybe 100 units are there, and 20 or so would be for people with disabilities. You may have some elderly housing, some market rate. You'd have enough room for bringing in employment services and community room where they could go hang around. People could come in, and it could be a community center. And then suddenly, for the priming the pump in this small little bit, you've really got something. And individuals who need a little support, but they're in a group home, wouldn't this be better? Now you have 100 people living there to know, instead of just 3 others. And so for the public and others, I think on this, the sky's the limit. And Mr. O'Meara, when we talked about this, was it only last year? You begin to talk about developers and so on. It doesn't have to be something new. It has to be something, maybe it's in there for refurbishing or acquisition. And there are a lot of good businesses in this community that would love to find a way with this $1 million. It's like stone soup. So 1 million, maybe 3M says, well, we want to help out. We want to teach people to come work in our places, and we're going to set up an employment thing, and we're going to even just invest another $4 million in the project. And nothing to us. We're going to get some employees out of it someday, but we think it's cool. And then somebody else says, well, 3M put in 3 or 4, we're going to put in 4, in the target corporation, or somebody else decides to pile on. So anyway, that's what I imagine. And so to the public watching, if you can help us put some meat on the bones of this idea, I'm really, to the committee, if you can help us find $1 million to get this thing off the ground, I think it is going to be something that could be a model for Minnesota and maybe even across the country. And as we try to do as we really reimagine what waivers look like. And I think this is, anyway, I'll stop, but I think that's pretty amazing. Mr. O'Meara, do you want to offer a final thought?
I think I can't beat what you just said, Senator.
Well, thanks. And actually, if you knew how smart this guy was, you'd know that's a pretty high compliment. So, so people like me are philosophers, but I very much need the committee members and the department staff and the public like Mr. O'Meara and Connor. Connor inspires me. So, hey, Connor, keep it up. And I use your coffee cup every 3 or 4 days. Anyway, so we have much to do this session, many challenges ahead, but these kind of things, I think, can spark something really amazing and turning on the innovation of Minnesotans and their families and giving everybody a chance to be pretty much all they could be. So with that, we're done and we're adjourned.